You ever have one of those days where everything feels lined up perfectly, the weather's just right, the errands are behind you, and all that's left is to enjoy some peace? That was me one Saturday afternoon. The sky was clear, the sun had that warm but not too hot glow, and I had just conquered Walmart, dodging carts, grabbing the last good steaks, managing to find a checkout line that wasn't 40 people deep. By the time I pulled into my driveway, bags of barbecue supplies stacked in the back seat, I felt like I had won some kind of suburban championship. All I wanted was to unload, crack a cold drink, and start prepping for the cookout I'd promised my wife and a couple friends. But peace doesn't last long when you live next to someone like Loretta. That was her name. Late 60s hair lacquered into a helmet of blonde, always wearing something that looked like it was screaming for attention. In this case, a hot pink tracksuit so bright you could have spotted her from a mile away. We'd had maybe 2 conversations before this day, both awkward and clipped. Mostly we stuck to polite nods when getting the mail. But when I stepped out of my car that Saturday, juggling plastic bags that threatened to rip, I caught her standing at the edge of her lawn arms, crossed glaring like I'd parked a UFO in my driveway. I gave her a little wave, just trying to keep it neighborly. "Afternoon," I said, forcing a smile. No response. Her scowl just got deeper. Fine, I thought maybe she was mad about my music, or maybe she was just born like that. But before I could grab the last bag, her voice cut through the air like a fire alarm. "You think you can just waltz in here with your stolen goods, parading them around, like you own the block?" I froze. "Stolen goods," I repeated, blinking at her. She jabbed a finger in my direction. "People like you never pay for anything, you just take and take. Now hand those over before there's trouble." I actually laughed at first because it sounded so absurd. "Hand what over?" I asked. These are my groceries. I have the receipt right here." She took a step closer, her eyes wild. "You heard me. My family's having a gathering and I need supplies. You've got more than you need, and I know where you got them. Give them to me now." Imagine standing in your own driveway, holding your own groceries, being told to hand them over like you were some neighborhood thief. It was surreal, like a bad play where the script made no sense. "No," I said, simply trying to keep calm. "These are mine. I'm not giving them to you." That's when her face twisted, her voice went shrill. "You're refusing. You're threatening an old woman." She hadn't moved, I hadn't moved, but suddenly my very existence was a threat in her eyes. And then, of course, she pulled out her phone. Glittery pink case like a teenager's accessory. I felt my stomach drop because I already knew where this was headed. I'd seen the videos online, the ones you think only happen somewhere else, never to you. She dialed 911, and like flipping a switch, she transformed. Gone was the angry neighbor. In her place was a trembling victim. "Yes, hello, I need help," she said, her voice dripping with fake fear. "There's a large, aggressive man threatening me in my neighborhood. He has bags of stolen goods. He's yelling, he's advancing on me. I fear for my life." I could hardly breathe. She was creating a fiction right in front of me, her eyes locked on mine as if daring me to stop her. I pulled out my own phone, started recording. It was the only defense I had. Minutes later, the sirens wailed. Within 3, maybe 4 minutes, a police SUV pulled up, lights flashing red and blue across the street. 2 officers jumped out, hands hovering near their weapons. I hadn't moved. I was still holding my phone in one hand, my groceries in the other, but in their eyes, I was already the suspect. "Put the bags down, hands where we can see them," the younger one barked. I set the bags down slowly, one tipping over and spilling a carton of eggs across the asphalt. Perfect metaphor, right? My life cracking open at my own feet. Meanwhile, Loretta rushed over, tears appearing from nowhere, clutching her chest like she'd just survived a mugging. "Oh, thank God you're here," she sobbed. "He tried to attack me." And just like that, they surrounded her like knights protecting a queen, backs turned to me as if I didn't even exist. When the sergeant arrived, older guy, calm demeanor but cold eyes, he pulled me aside. "All right, son," he said. "Why is this lady so upset? People don't call 911 for no reason." I told him everything, how she'd accused me of theft, demanded my groceries, then flipped the script when I refused. I held up my phone, told him I had the whole thing recorded. He barely glanced at it. "We'll get to that later," he said. Then came the leading questions. Had I yelled? Had I brushed against her accidentally? Did I puff my chest at her? It was like he was fishing for a confession to make the paperwork easier. I repeated again and again, I didn't touch her. I didn't threaten her. I just said no. He stared at me like he didn't believe a word. That's when my wife pulled up. Her timing was both a blessing and a curse. She saw the flashing lights, the cops, me standing there tense, and she rushed over demanding answers. "That's my husband. This is our home. What is going on?" The younger officer tried to block her, but she pushed past, fire in her voice. Loretta seized the moment like a stage actress. "Oh, here comes another one," she wailed. "They're a gang. They're terrorizing me." A gang. My wife, who crunches numbers for a living and owns 2 rescue cats, was now part of some imagined crime syndicate in a pink tracksuit drama. I'll never forget the look on her face, equal parts disbelief and fury. She turned to the sergeant and demanded he look at the video, demanded they stop this nonsense. He just sighed, shook his head, and finally gave the order I'd been dreading. "Cuff him." The click of those handcuffs around my wrists. There's no way to describe how dehumanizing it feels. Cold steel biting your skin, neighbors staring from their windows, your wife begging the cops to see reason. Loretta standing in the background, with a smug little smile like she'd just won a chess game. They shoved me into the back of the cruiser, while Jen cried not loud sobs, but the kind of silent, angry tears that break your heart. As the car pulled away, I caught one last glimpse of Loretta, arms folded, satisfaction written across her face. She'd done it. She'd turned her hate into reality, and I was the one paying the price. At the station, it got worse. Fingerprints, mugshot, shoelaces, and belt confiscated, every shred of dignity stripped away. My phone, the very video that could save me, was sealed in a plastic bag. I sat in a holding cell with concrete benches, replaying the scene over and over in my head. How quickly your life can flip, how fragile freedom is when a single lie carries more weight than your truth. Hours later, they let me call Jen. She was already fighting, already talking bail bonds and lawyers, her voice steel over the phone. She promised we'd fight this. It was the first lifeline I felt all night. Over the next few days, we met lawyer after lawyer. One told me to just take a plea deal, pay a fine, move on. Another was too swamped to give the case attention. Finally, we found Marcus, a small practice guy, who actually listened, who watched my video start to finish, and said the words I needed most, "I believe you." He called it what it was, malicious prosecution rooted in racial bias. He laid out a plan, demand the 911 call demand, body cam footage, dig into Loretta's past. "She's done this before, I guarantee it," he said. And he was right. Our private investigator found a trail of 911 calls stretching back years, even a previous lawsuit against another neighbor where she used almost identical language I feared for my life. He was aggressive, his kind are always violent. It was a pattern rehearsed and weaponized. Then came the jackpot. Body cam footage. Not only did it show me calm, hands up, voice steady, But after they cuffed me, those officers forgot their cameras were still rolling. The younger one laughed. Man, that was a classic Loretta call. Hook, line, and sinker. The older one grunted. Lady probably just didn't like his face. But hey, she said the magic words. Easier to arrest than do extra paperwork. I swear, hearing that nearly broke me all over again. They knew she was lying. They admitted it. And they arrested me anyway. Armed with that footage, Marcus set a meeting with the DA. She started off cocky, offering me a plea to disturbing the peace. Marcus just smiled, pulled out the video, pulled out the old lawsuit deposition, and let it all play. By the time the cop's own words came out about it being easier to arrest, the color drained from her face. Marcus leaned in and said, "We reject your offer. You're dropping every charge immediately, or we'll see you in federal court for malicious prosecution, false arrest, civil rights violations, and we'll drag every one of these officers through the mud." Within a week, the charges were dismissed with prejudice. Total victory. I was free. But freedom doesn't erase scars. Our neighborhood was split. Some folks brought casseroles, offered support, even wrote statements about Loretta's history of harassment. Others turned away, pretending it never happened. My job took me back, but the trust felt strained like a shadow followed me everywhere. Loretta stayed put for a while, glaring at us from her yard like she was still the victim. Eventually, though, the civil suit we filed forced her to sell. A judgment branded her a liar in black and white, and that was the end of her reign in our neighborhood. The city settled money for damages, mandatory retraining for the department. It wasn't about the cash. It was about forcing accountability, making sure the next time someone like Loretta dials 911 with a story dripping in prejudice, officers think twice before putting an innocent man in cuffs just to avoid paperwork. We eventually sold our house too, started fresh in a new town with better neighbors, bigger yard, no pink tracksuits in sight. Life is good again, but I'm not the same person I was before that Saturday. I'm more cautious, more skeptical of the systems we're told to trust. But I also know the power of fighting back, the power of truth, of good lawyers, of decent people willing to stand up for what's right. Loretta tried to turn us into victims. We refused. We fought and we won. And that, my friend, is a victory no amount of hate can ever take away. So here's where I'll leave it. What do you think? Was justice really served, or should people like Loretta and those officers face even harsher consequences? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you stand and share if you've ever seen someone try to weaponize lies like this. I'd love to hear your take.